Hello, everybody. This is the show we like to call Two Wizards and a Mic. You, of course, are amazing for coming by. My name is Shane, and to my other side here is.
Andrew.
And this is a show where we talk about Dungeons and Dragons because it's a game that Andrew and I have played off and on over the last 30 odd years, and it's been great. And we both recently, over the past say 5, 6, 7, 8 years, have come back to the game after living life as adults and stuff. And we've been going over a bunch of things about the different classes in the game, the different species in the game, and we've been talking also about different monsters. And just a very quick shout out, thank you to everybody who supported the Kickstarter. Andrew, how did it end up?
It ended up really well. Yes. Think just over 600 people decided to back the book. So I'm working on that right now. And yes, so I've almost finalized the monsters. There'll be 120 new monsters. And
Nice.
Once the text is done, then it's a few weeks of editing the text. And then it gets moved over to layout. And then after that portion is done, the initial layout, then we can go to the artist and start working on the art. So yeah, it's going really well.
Okay, I'm jazzed. I'm really excited about this one.
It's always fun in Phaland because there's no rules, so I can create whatever kind of creature I can possibly imagine. So that's pretty fun.
You encounter a 70-foot pretzel. That would work. Actually, I said that as a joke, but I'm like, actually, no, that would probably work in Phaland.
Okay, just hold on a second. Okay.
Take all these notes. So last time we talked about bards, and this week we're talking about rogues, which you and I sort of behind the scenes were talking about. It's probably one of the more popular classes that are out there because everybody wants to be the sneaky little thief in the dark. But tell me all about them. I want to know more.
So yes, the rogue. So this class actually started out as the thief in original Dungeons and Dragons. And then there was a subclass called the assassin. And the new version of the rogue, the 5th edition version, they say that it is basically a class that relies on skill, stealth, and their opponent's weaknesses. And I think it is one of the best classes for sure in 5th edition. It has a lot of resources available to the class. There's a lot of versatility in the kind of rogue you could play. And as I said, this class has always been a part of the game and always been a part of fantasy. And here there's a long list of famous rogues. So of course we start with Bilbo. So in The Hobbit, the halfling thief who joins the dwarf party, spoiler alert, and heads out on their adventures, hired as the thief for the party. He's probably one of the most famous rogues or thieves for fantasy. We have Robin Hood, of course, a very classic hero who robs from the rich to give to the poor. Would be very popular these days. And then we have Zorro, which is actually part of my background. We didn't even have television when I was a really young kid in Africa, but at birthday parties, they used to show movies on the old, those old projectors.
Right.
What we watched were black and white Zorro movies and other cowboy Western type movies. So that was like some of the first movies I ever saw were these black and white Zorro movies, which you can still find. And very, very much the Western style story. But Zorro was definitely a rogue, using stealth and skill and his opponent's weaknesses, and in disguise. Then you've got Wesley from The Princess Bride. I think another rogue. Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly. Some people would say the whole crew are rogues, but I would say probably just the captain. Then you got Captain Jack Sparrow from the Pirates movies. He's been in the news a little bit these days. Of course, James Bond is some kind of more modern rogue. Batman as well. There might be other superheroes. I'm not really a superhero person or a comic person, but for sure Batman would fit in there. And then Arsène Lupin, a French character who has some comics and books and now has a great TV show on Netflix.
Oh,
It's really good
cool.
if you haven't seen. It's called Lupin, about this
Oh
famous.
yeah, I've heard lots of stuff about this recently.
It's
Oh,
very
that's
good.
cool.
Yeah, French thief called Arsène Lupin. Then the Grey Mouser from fantasy books, the Assassin's Creed characters for the video
Yeah,
games,
very
and I
much
guess there's
so.
a
Yeah.
movie. I haven't seen that movie. Tasselhoff, another one from D&D from the Dragonlance stories. And then there's another show to watch. It's called Money Heist, the English name. It's a show from Spain, and it's about a group of thieves, and every one of those characters is a rogue. And it is a great show. I don't know. Have you seen Money Heist?
I've heard of it. I saw a trailer for it 2-3 weeks ago. It is on my list of things to watch, so that's actually very
Yeah.
cool.
So, and then I
Like,
realized I didn't really think of any female rogues right away, but then thinking about it, I think Celine from Underworld, the vampire character, I think she's kind of a rogue. I think
she
that's the
definitely would be.
closest. Yeah, and then maybe even Veronica Mars, which is like the modern update of Nancy Drew. Um,
Yeah, she could totally be a rogue because
that
she's
might
got all of
be,
those skills, right? Like yeah, she has them all. I
yeah,
mean,
that's a clever show too, because it's actually a film noir set in modern day California.
yeah,
Um, that's another really cool version of a rogue. And then we have the basics for the rogue. So they have actually decent hit points, 1d8 hit points. They can use light armor. So you're often going to have a rogue with leather armor or studded leather, and they'll get very excited if they find magical versions of those. Because usually as a rogue, you have high dexterity already, and then you add
right.
that with leather armor or magical armor, and you can have a really good armor class. Weapons, there's quite a variety. Um, Basically, all the simple ones, a few swords, the hand crossbow. Skills, most of them, and the ones that you would think of like stealth, acrobatics, deception, investigation, sleight of hand. Those are some of the ones, but you can actually choose 4. So that's a lot more than most classes.
Right, right,
And then you're also proficient with thieves' tools, which you want to have because you want to open locks and chests and things like that.
right.
So the features, again, a lot of rogues can improve their skills. The most, probably one of the most useful and most popular features is the sneak attack. So this is where you can do extra damage if if you have advantage against an enemy or one of your allies is within 5 feet of the enemy, and it doesn't have to be a melee weapon, it can be ranged. So you can actually,
Oh,
yeah, you could be like, say you had a longbow. A longbow, um, the regular range for a longbow is 150 feet. If you have an ally within your enemy within 5 feet, you can be 150 feet away with your longbow shooting and using sneak attack.
wow. Actually, I had
Yeah,
no idea. That's actually very cool. I always
yeah,
assumed, because I haven't played that many rogues in recent memory, but it's always been a dagger being used generally. Actually,
yeah,
you spoiled me in a game because you were playing a character that had a dagger that they could throw and it returned like a boomerang,
yeah,
and you could use that as a sneak attack, and that was
yeah,
always kind of cool.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's a lot of people I think forget that it's melee, not just melee weapon. So ranged weapons with a rogue is just deadly. And that's one of the great things about the characters. You can really keep your character um, quite safe many times because of your ability well, this is one of them, to use sneak attack. We'll get to another one in a second here. So Then you have the thieves' cant, which is this secret mix of languages and dialects and codes um, and jargon that thieves only know. So that's a useful thing to have. Then cunning action. Now this is one of my favorites for rogues, and this is how your character totally changes, because you can use a
Right.
bonus action to dash, disengage, or hide. Okay, so now that means you could every time you attack with your attack action, you can, if you're near the enemy or if you're right in combat, it doesn't matter how many people are around you, you can use a bonus action to disengage at the end of your attack, as long as you have some movement left. And now you can, it doesn't matter about opportunity attacks. You can retreat from the close in combat, no problem. So
That is
incredibly
very
useful.
powerful.
You can do that every single turn. And I usually do when I'm playing my rogue is I attack and then I use my bonus action to disengage. And I know you guys, when it's an NPC, an evil NPC rogue doing it, it's very challenging to deal with. The other thing you can also do is you can use a bonus action every time to dash. So you can really move around quickly, much like a monk in many ways. And then, of course, you can also use a bonus action to constantly hide. So, and once you're hidden, your attacks have advantage.
I'm just picturing that in like play where it's like some sort of creature you're attacking, and it's like, oh, where did it go? Oh, what the hell? Oh, just completely just disappearing every single time. That's kind
Yeah.
of awesome, actually. That's very, very powerful.
Yeah, and
Very
it
powerful.
really fits with the sneak attack too, because a sneak attack in reality would you be, it'd be a backstab or you surprising a creature or person, an NPC. So yeah, it's realistic in how the rogue would be acting. And then an uncanny dodge you get a little bit later. That is also an incredibly powerful one, because every time you're attacked, if you can see the attacker, you only take half damage. Every
That
attack.
that is probably as powerful as cunning action. Like that to me would be something. At what level does that come in? That's later on though? It's like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's around seventh, I think
Oh, is it
seventh
higher? Okay.
level.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
double
very
check,
cool.
but it's yeah, it's almost as good as cutting action. And then you have evasion, which is another really powerful feature, because you
Right.
can dodge out of the way of some um, area effect spells or attacks. So, for example, a fireball, it makes it easier for you to get out of the way and take either half damage or no damage.
Nice.
And then you have at much higher levels, you have blind sense. So you're able to be aware of the location of any hidden or invisible creature within 10 feet. So that's pretty
Nice.
useful. And then there's a few other things. Elusive means nobody can ever have advantage against you. But we're talking, this is at very high levels. The
Right. Right.
elusive is at 18th level. And then stroke of luck means if you miss a hit, you can just turn it into a hit. But that's at 20th level. So the uncanny dodge is 5th level. Cunning action is only at 2nd level. So that's a pretty sweet feature.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That actually gets you out of a lot of scrapes when you're at a lower level too, because 1d8 is great even if you max that out right off the bat. I mean, a lot of the characters. I mean, I was actually surprised when we started one of our campaigns more recently, where we all started at level 1. We were getting hammered. Like the adventure we were on, just like first level, it's like we were getting killed every other moment, kind of thing. And it kind of surprised me because you get that sort of impression when you're first playing that you have some, I don't know, training wheels at the very beginning.
Mhm.
And I liked the fact that we were getting nailed every single time. It's like you run into a ladder, it falls on you, and 16 buckets of lava come down on top of you as well.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm suddenly down to like 1 hit point, and I just walked around the corner. So I kind of
Yeah.
felt like that, and that was really cool. So I kind of like the fact that you have some of these skills as a rogue like really early on. Um, I really want to play with like elusive and like stuff like that. So, it's one of those things that I want to play a rogue. Sorry, keep
Yeah,
going.
they're really good. So we have 3 subclasses in the player's handbook, the basic subclasses. There's more in a few of the newer books. So you have the thief, the arcane trickster, and the assassin. So the thief is the more classic rogue, and you have the ability to improve your technique in opening traps and locks, and basically using thieves' tools. You have the ability to be a better climber. You can climb just as well as you can walk. And then later,
Nice.
your stealth is amazing. You have advantage on your stealth check if you move half your speed. So that's really good. And then at really high levels, you can take 2 turns in the first round of combat too. So thief is the kind of the gold standard. Arcane trickster. Now I've talked a few times about how giving spells to every class kind of takes away from the uniqueness of the classes, but I actually think that this is one where it really fits. Like, I think that it fits the fighter when there's a fighter called the Eldritch Knight, or is that, yeah, there's a fighter called the Eldritch Knight. That subclass is basically a spell sword, like a fighter who can use magic, and that's a very classic character in fantasy. And I think the arcane trickster, I think it works really well. Another example, I guess, for a rogue is potentially Loki, and he would be like an arcane trickster.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they actually have some wizard spells, and they don't have too many. So I think it doesn't get sort of out of hand. They have the ability to use their mage hand in a lot of different ways, including pickpocketing characters or just inserting objects into other characters onto their person.
That is
They can
cool.
also do magical ambushes. They can distract targets with the mage hand. They can actually steal magical knowledge from spellcasters as well, which I think is a really cool idea.
Now,
And
does that grant them the spells, be able to cast them, or is it just the knowledge of the spell that they could then turn around and, I don't know,
they can
sell to
actually
somebody?
cast it.
Oh, wow. That's very,
Yeah,
very
they can
cool.
cast it. So that's a really cool one. The assassin. So in my campaigns, to me, it would be game breaking, because I would say, I'm trying to think if you could have a non-evil assassin. Yeah, I guess you could actually.
You could. I mean,
You
it
could.
could
I
be
mean,
like,
it's
it's my
James
day
Bond.
job. Well, yeah. Actually, that's the best example. Like,
James Bond is not an evil assassin. So, yeah, I guess you could have an assassin, because I think in general, I think evil campaigns are game breaking. Um,
well, they can
for the
be,
game,
because if
for
they're
D&D anyway.
played in an evil way where they're trying to, um, I don't know, for some reason they need to injure a member of the party, just as an example. And that would not really happen well, I mean, I guess if it's played a certain way, infiltrating the party maybe or something like that, um but overall, uh
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it's problematic. All those characters are problematic because the game is designed for a group of basically 4 or 5 heroes, and you could have a big party if you wanted, but in general,
yeah,
4 or 5 heroes working together. So as soon as you have an evil character, it doesn't work very well, I don't think. Of course, there's lots of different tables, and people can, that's a choice
yeah.
people can make for sure. So assassins, they can have advantage on people who haven't had a turn yet in combat. So that's pretty sweet. They can learn and take on another identity using basically a week to create a false identity, and they
Oh,
can
that's
mimic
cool.
another person's speech and behavior. So this is a very useful feature. And then they can also surprise a creature as well to take more damage. So I think pros, there's lots of pros. So the sneak attack is a huge one, cunning action and uncanny dodge. They're so versatile. You can do so many things with a rogue, and you can have so many interesting character builds as far as the role playing. They're very powerful with the sneak attack. The fact that you can get out of out of the way of getting taking a lot of damage. I think if you play them well, I said this in one of our other shows, like if you play them well, your character can last for a long time. I think my rogue now is about 12th level or so. And I found that, that using the bonus action to disengage and using dash, the bonus action to dash, and using ranged weapons, you can do a lot, and you can really help the party out.
No, that's
the only
actually
thing
very
you don't
cool.
really have is the regular rogue. You don't have spells and you don't have healing. But again, I don't think everybody needs to have everything, even though who knows what's going to happen in 6th edition.
Well, exactly. Well, on these particular subclasses, I mean, to me, the most interesting ones are Thief and Arcane. Assassin, as cool as it is to want to be an assassin, to me, that's sort of, it's been done. Like, that's been played out in my mind for, I mean, I think it would work great for NPCs or the villains of the adventure you're on, because then they're obviously coming to get you, so you want to defend yourself.
Right.
But you're right, as a player, it's kind of game breaking in a lot of ways. I mean, you could play it out certain ways, but I think that would require a lot of work with the person running the game, because it would take a lot of effort, because you don't want to default to the I'm just here to be a murderer kind of stuff, which to
Yeah.
me is
Yeah.
kind of boring.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Same
like
here.
I mean, that's why we like characters like Dexter, for example, in that Dexter show, where it's that anti-hero kind of thing, where what they're doing is wrong, but they're doing it for the right reasons. And it's a weird sort of shift of how to get an audience to really buy into that, where
Yeah.
I don't think this kind of character this kind of sort of subclass would actually work that well within a party. I mean, I'm trying to think of ways where you could make it Dexterous, but even then, at the end of the day, it's still an evil act, right? So, anyway, yeah, I'm just kind of thinking out how that would actually work. But yeah, are there any other subclasses that you've encountered out
Yeah,
there
I
in the
agree. I
wild?
think the other two are.
Nope, your internet just went weird.
Sorry.
Your internet went weird all of a sudden. I will be quiet. Please continue.
Yeah. What were you saying about the classes?
I was just saying that the of those classes, I think the first two, the Thief and the Arcane Trickster,
Yeah.
are the
Yeah.
better ones to go with.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. And I think it's interesting because I think really the only con is that a lot of people play the rogue the same way, even though the
Yeah,
options are there you could play a rogue a million different ways. A lot of people play the clever, cunning, thief, like that sort of character, and that, you're not sure if you can really trust them, and they're, in other words, they're kind of like they're always stealthy and they're always cunning, and they're out for themselves. Whereas there's a huge range. You could play a lawful good thief. You could play
yeah,
you could play Bilbo, who is the reluctant hero, who doesn't really want to be the thief, but they have those skills,
yeah.
right? You could play kind
Tasselhoff
of
is a
more like,
really good example of that. Like the Tasselhoff character from Dragonlance is very
yeah,
much that um, happy-go-lucky. Oh, I just do this because that's who I
yeah,
am, whatever. Oh, do you want me to get that thing? I'll totally go get it. That kind of sort of cheerful
yeah,
kind of demeanor. Yeah,
yeah. And I think you could also play kind of more of the warrior rogue, more like Celine in Underworld, or to a certain degree James Bond. You could play, You could play a vigilante type who wasn't evil, like Batman. Um, yeah, there's so many different opportunities. You could play like an older thief, right? Who's really, really
Yeah.
experienced, but maybe is not in the greatest shape anymore. That would be
Yeah.
interesting.
That would
Um,
actually be very cool.
like maybe you're stealthy to a certain degree, but you're not really super athletic anymore. But you could
I
pick
just tried to
locks.
climb that wall. Give me a minute, I gotta recover.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you're like a dad. You have like dad stealth, right? Like, you're not
Dad
really
stealth.
fast.
That should be a feature in a subclass.
Yeah.
Dad stealth.
Maybe we need to make the dad like the dad thief, the dad rogue. But like, you're good over short distances. I guess kind of like the dwarf, like Gimli in Lord of the Rings too. I'm good over short distances. Um, but you can still pick locks, and um, you can still use your sneak attack. Yeah, I think there's so many different ways. A dwarf thief would be cool. Um, yeah, I think it kind of shows up too how some of those fantastical races don't really make sense in the bigger scheme of things, like a rogue centaur, right, or a
Yeah.
rogue dragonborn. So you're 7 feet tall, 300 pounds, but you're stealthy.
Like an ox. Like a dad.
Like a dad, exactly. Exactly. Or,
That's awesome.
you're a centaur rogue, but you can't get down the ladder into the dungeon. Why did we bring him?
What a great way to play a rogue character in a party. Like,
I'll
I'll
guard the
just
horses.
exactly. Let me pick this lock. Oh, broke my lock pick. Do you have any more? No. I forgot to bring more.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
subclass of the dad thief.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Jack of all trades ability. There's some crossover between rogue and dad, versatility, old man strength. I guess that's more fighter. Now I've got to do them all. Now I have to do all the
Yeah.
classes.
Okay. Next week we're gonna go back to fighter. Start of the beginning.
Yeah.
That's actually very
Yeah,
cool.
no, a really, really good class, and one I love to make all the time as NPCs because again they're so useful and cause all kinds of headaches for the party. Being able to
Yeah.
maneuver and using sneak attack and um, yeah,
Nope, that is totally and this is what I like about us, going over this kind of stuff because in this sort of detail is that it's always bringing up new ways in my mind about, oh yeah, you're right. I can do that thing with that class because that would work. And it kind of breaks me out of the sort of routine of character building. And
yeah,
not to mention like running into like habits and going, yeah, I always play characters like that. And I didn't realize that I had this particular skill
right,
that I could have used that I ignored or missed or whatever, or didn't quite understand. And, like thief reflexes. I haven't had a thief at that level, but oh my God, that's actually very cool. Like that
yeah,
is a skill that would save just like the bouncing in and out. But yeah, yeah, like again, like every episode, I ended off going, so I'm gonna go and make this character 74 times
right, right.
and try and make different ways of doing it. So
The other, yeah, the other role playing ideas I would have too are like Wesley in Princess Bride, who's very humorous and doesn't take anything seriously. I mean, to a certain degree, it's not really a three-dimensional character. It's more like a comic in a way. But
yeah,
to have a rogue who is very funny and who's a bit of a bard in a way, he doesn't take things seriously, and he just kind of he's almost incredibly graceful, right? Like sort of like Errol Flynn back in the old movies. This very graceful roguish kind of bard in a way. You could have that. And another one would be I was thinking about the Money Heist characters, this Spanish show. A lot of those characters have these incredible backstories. So there could be lots of reasons why you've ended up being a thief. And the other thing we didn't mention actually are we haven't really talked about it that much, are the factions involved with these classes and with your characters. So obviously the first one that comes to mind with rogues is the Thieves Guild. And to me, that's one of the greatest factions to use in your stories. This sinister behind the scenes group who have contacts everywhere. And usually their lair is hidden underneath the city or outside of town. So maybe your characters got involved with the Thieves Guild. Maybe it's a Thieves Guild that's not evil, which is not very likely, but it's possible. Or maybe you've got involved with them and now you've decided to leave, and the guild members constantly are hunting the party down, trying to get the person back. That would be good.
Oh my God, that would actually be. See, again, these sort of scenarios that could easily be missed, or like damn, this game is so creative. It makes me actually. I gotta say, like every time I play, there's at least one moment where you kind of go, I need to be more creative, or I could do that. That would be cool. I just like to roll dice. Well, all right, roll dice then. But yeah.
Oh,
all
yeah.
of these classes have so much in them that you can do pretty much anything. Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. On that note, boys and girls, we've talked about rogues. Next week, we're talking about, what is it? Monks. A character class that I have played, not recently, but about a year or two ago. Was terrible at it. But yeah, I'm willing to try it again. Thank you all for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, do all that kind of fun stuff. We're also on Twitter. Follow us there. And don't forget, this show is brought to us... can't even speak. It was brought to us by Cawood Publishing, a maker of fine product. You need to go and buy everything that the Cawood Publishing people have created. And when I say Cawood Publishing, I mean Andrew over here. And as always, thank you, Andrew, for coming, and we'll see everybody next week. Thank you so much. Bye.
Later.